10,000 people were evacuated from cities in the provinces of Sichuan and Yunnan as 25 rivers exceeded alarming thresholds. A landslide triggered by unusually heavy rain has killed 4 people and left 8 others missing in northern China's Hebei province. Welcome to Earth's Dark Secrets. I'm about to reveal how a single weather system triggered a domino effect of destruction across 5 Chinese provinces, why early warning systems that saved lives in some areas failed catastrophically in others, and how 26 million people found themselves living through China's worst natural disaster sequence since records began. February 8, 2025, Jinping County, Sichuan Province, 100,000 cubic meters of mountainside broke free without warning, burying an entire village in what geologists now recognize as a preview of the catastrophic soil instability that would plague Sichuan throughout 2025. 29 people died instantly, 2 survivors pulled from the debris, 200 residents evacuated from the expanding danger zone. The Jinping landslide killed 29 people and injured 2 more in Sichuan province, but the real horror wasn't the death toll. It was the geological signature that emergency teams discovered buried in the debris. Soil analysis revealed unprecedented water saturation levels in bedrock formations that should have remained stable for centuries. The mountain hadn't just collapsed, it had been systematically destabilized by subsurface water infiltration that transformed solid rock into a liquid foundation. This February disaster became a case study in progressive geological failure, where underground water systems slowly compromise mountain stability until a critical threshold triggers massive structural collapse. What no one realized was that Jinping wasn't an isolated incident. It was the first symptom of a regional geological crisis that would explode across southwestern China 5 months later. Sichuan Village, Shuyang County, Wednesday morning, July 8th. Rain-triggered landslide buried a house in less than 30 seconds, creating what rescue teams describe as complete structural erasure. Where buildings don't just collapse, they vanish entirely beneath tons of liquefied mountainside. 5 people missing, house location marked only by GPS coordinates, search operations suspended due to continued geological instability. Traditional landslide patterns were breaking down. Instead of slow-moving soil creep that residents could detect and escape, Sichuan was experiencing instantaneous liquefaction events where solid ground became fluid without warning signs. Geological surveys discovered that underground water tables had risen 40% above historical averages, 24 hours of torrential rain. The Chishui River in Guizhou province reached its highest levels since records began in 1953, but the real story wasn't the water level, it was how fast it got there. Heavy rains in China led to flood warnings issued in 11 provinces, but meteorological data revealed this wasn't typical seasonal flooding. Atmospheric analysis showed concentrated moisture streams that delivered months of rainfall in single-day pulses, overwhelming river systems designed for gradual water accumulation. 25 rivers exceeded alarming thresholds simultaneously. 10,000 people evacuated from Sichuan and Yunnan provinces. Transportation networks across 5 provinces disrupted. The Chishui event demonstrated hydrological cascade failure, where one river system's overflow creates upstream pressure that triggers systematic flooding across interconnected waterways. Emergency responders discovered they were managing not isolated flood zones, but a regional water crisis, where traditional flood response protocols proved inadequate for the geographic scale and simultaneous nature of multiple river failures. Badu Town in Damba County experienced something unprecedented in Chinese disaster records, a controlled mudslide experiment conducted by nature itself. A 45,000 cubic meters mudslide swept down in Qiangshan Gorge, but due to early warnings and evacuations, there were no casualties. 45,000 cubic meters of mud, sand, and boulders thundered down Qiangshan Gorge at 11:30 p.m., but advanced meteorological monitoring had triggered evacuations that saved every potential victim. This became China's first zero-casualty major mudslide. The Badu event revealed critical insights about mudslide velocity and debris flow mechanics. High-speed cameras captured mudslide speeds reaching 60 kilometers per hour, fast enough to overwhelm any evacuation attempt that wasn't initiated hours before slope failure. A landslide on a highway in Sichuan province last week also killed 3 people after it swept several cars down a mountainside. Highway surveillance footage captured the terrifying reality. Solid roadway transformed into a river of debris in 15 seconds, carrying vehicles like toys in a geological avalanche that redefined the landscape permanently. Emergency teams discovered cars buried under 12 meters of debris, depths that required heavy excavation equipment typically used in mining operations rather than traffic accident response. The incident forced Chinese transportation authorities to acknowledge that major highways traverse geological risk zones where traditional road engineering assumptions no longer apply. The cascading disasters created what emergency management specialists classify as a mega-disaster footprint, where individual incidents combine to affect populations across multiple provinces simultaneously. 26 million people impacted by natural disasters across China, with Sichuan province bearing the heaviest casualties and infrastructure damage. The disaster sequence revealed critical vulnerabilities in China's emergency response networks. Systems designed for isolated incidents struggled with simultaneous multi-province disasters that overwhelmed regional resource allocation protocols. Communications networks failed, transportation corridors blocked, medical facilities overwhelmed, supply chain disruptions cascading across provincial boundaries. Chinese geological surveys revealed something that transforms these disasters from isolated incidents into symptoms of a regional crisis. Systematic bedrock destabilization across southwestern China's mountain ranges. Underground water table monitoring showed infiltration patterns that suggest decades of gradual geological compromise finally reaching critical thresholds where mountain slopes can no longer maintain structural integrity. Seismological data indicated micro-earthquake swarms preceding major landslides, suggesting that underground geological shifts are triggering surface failures through mechanisms not yet fully understood by geological science. The pattern suggests southwestern China may be experiencing the early stages of long-term geological reorganization, where traditional assumptions about mountain stability no longer apply. September 5th, 2025, northern Sichuan recorded its most intense rainfall of 2025, with 12-hour accumulations exceeding 250 millimeters, 10 inches, in Guangyuan and Nanchong, and a provincial maximum of 255.2 millimeters, 10 inches, in Kaohsiung District. 3 months after the July disasters, Sichuan experienced its heaviest rainfall of 2025, proving that the disaster sequence wasn't a one-time event but part of an ongoing meteorological pattern that continues threatening the region. Flash floods and evacuations across Guangyuan and Nanchong demonstrated that local emergency response systems had learned from the July catastrophes, implementing faster evacuation protocols that prevented casualties despite extreme rainfall conditions. These Sichuan disasters expose a reality that mountain communities worldwide prefer to ignore. Geological stability is temporary, and what appears to be permanent landscape can transform into liquid death trap within seconds when underground water systems exceed critical thresholds. The 2025 Sichuan disaster sequence killed over 70 people and affected millions more, but the real impact extends beyond casualty statistics. These events demonstrated that traditional geological risk assessment may be inadequate for mountain regions experiencing unprecedented moisture infiltration patterns. 45,000 cubic meters of debris flowing down a single gorge. 41 people vanishing when mountains turned liquid. 29 lives lost when 100,000 cubic meters of stable mountainside decided to relocate. As climate patterns continue evolving beyond historical precedent, mountain communities across China face an uncomfortable question. How do you live safely in landscapes where the ground itself can become your enemy without warning? The answer, as Sichuan discovered throughout 2025, might be as simple as accepting that mountains aren't as permanent as they appear. Thanks for watching Earth's Dark Secrets, where we expose the hidden realities behind our planet's most devastating disasters. If this investigation revealed something the mainstream media won't tell you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us uncover the stories that authorities don't want told. Hit the bell so you never miss our in-depth analysis of the disasters that reveal our planet's dark truths.